First of all, thank you for inviting me, Jacob. And it's a pleasure to be with you guys. Actually, I had given a workshop a number of years ago on Orcas Island. And just about everybody in the workshop was from Vancouver or Victoria. So that was my first workshop with Canadian people, and I really enjoyed it. Regarding my book, it's, as you know, it's called Triggers. And the origin of the book is interesting. I asked myself, what is the word that I hear the most from clients? And hands down, it was triggers. So I decided to research into triggers and recognize my own triggers. And after a couple of years, I came up with this book. And I'm very happy with it. And I think you will enjoy reading it. So I'd like to begin with what is a trigger. It's any word or person or event or experience that will touch off an immediate emotional reaction. For example, sadness, depression, anger, fear, shame. Now, all of those sound negative, and that's because the word trigger is used negatively, but as I'll point out, it can also, of course, be positive. So the simplest way to understand triggers is stimulus and reaction. You suddenly are surprised by a loud noise. You're startled. The trigger was the noise, and the startle reaction was coming from you. So trigger always refers to the combination of a stimulus and a response. However, the reaction to a trigger is usually excessive, is larger than what is warranted by the stimulus. So for instance, you hear a loud noise and you're startled, you go like this. That is not excessive. But if you suddenly started screaming in terror, then we would start to wonder if this excessive reaction was actually an example of a post-traumatic stress response, and that somehow what just happened is not only in the present, but hooks up with some original experience that was very harmful or hurtful or scary, and you're still holding it inside. Actually, it's in the amygdala, in the limbic part of the brain, so it's not really accessible by words or thought. So that's why it's such a sudden reaction, and it's also difficult to, shall we say, stop ourselves from having a trigger reaction. So we could say that when a trigger brings about an excessive reaction, it could be thought of as a signal that there's something to look into from your past, and also from two other sources, which I'll talk about soon. And it's something for you to deal with. You're finding out that there's some unfinished business inside, something emotional, some event that happened to you that has never been resolved. And what I try to do in the book is show you how to work with this kind of experience. We'll never get rid of our triggers completely, but we can, shall we say, reduce the wallop that they have on us. Usually triggers and reactions happen so fast that we don't have a chance to pause. That would be the mindful pause that I suggest. And we want to be compassionate toward ourselves. It's just normal to have an automatic reaction. And this is because, as I said, these triggers are activating the emotional part of the brain, not the prefrontal cortex where the rational thoughts preside. We might say, for instance, that the limbic system is like a horse. At times it's spirited, at times it's wild. The prefrontal cortex is like the reins. So we're the riders, but when the trigger is a big one, we have lost the reins. Now we could also say that a person triggers us in direct proportion to how important he or she has become in reality or in our minds. So a stranger says something or snubs you, that won't be as big a deal as if someone that you have a crush on snubs you. That will create the strong trigger reaction. So another way that a trigger then is a signal is that it shows you the importance of someone. And that can be a surprise. So positive triggers would be like falling in love, being surprised by someone's wonderful generosity, somebody paying attention to you who didn't ordinarily pay attention, and you're feeling good about it. Erotic excitement, optimism. You could be triggered positively, for instance, with chills and a lump in your throat when your team scores a win, or when you see an example of the triumph of the human spirit, either directly or, as say, in a movie. You could look at a photo of happy times gone by, and that could give you a warm sense of nostalgia. Those would all be examples of positive triggers. They are not the topic of my book. The topic is the ones that kind of upset us. So maybe a good way to present the central point of the book is these couple of sentences which are in the introduction. Our goal is not to root out all our triggers, but to find a trailhead from them into the psychological and spiritual work that has been so long awaiting us. This is how we turn our triggers into tools. So if I'm triggered so strongly when I displease a female, what must have happened between me and mother, or between me and any female in the course of my life, that imprinted me with such a fear that now I imagine that if I displease a woman, something terrible will happen to me. This invites me to look at what terrible thing did happen, if something did happen, and try to resolve it. that will deaden the blow of the trigger. It won't eliminate it completely, but it'll make life much easier. So I'm going from trigger to what happened. And I'm not blaming anyone when I do that, because now it's all my responsibility as an adult. Since a feature of becoming an adult is exploring our origins and asking what in them is still tugging at me and creating shame or fear or anger, the very things, the very feelings that are instigated by a trigger. And by the way, a trigger doesn't cause a reaction. A trigger is a catalyst. It places you in the position where your particular reaction will happen. For instance, one person can be scared, feel fear because he displeased a man or a woman, whereas another person feels instant triumph when he or she does that because he has something in for men or women and wants to retaliate. So it isn't as if the original event caused a reaction. It's up to each person as to what the reaction will be. And that fits perfectly with that it's a trailhead into the dark forest of all the leftover feelings, longings, experiences that are waiting to be paid attention to and somehow worked through. By the way, another word for trigger would be buttons. He pushes my buttons. Another word would be hooked. I get hooked every time. And when you say I get hooked, that particular syntax shows you it isn't really a choice. It's something that happens. And we don't want to hold it against ourselves when this happens. So it'll be up to us to explore the origin of our triggered reflexes and to work on moving past them. And we can learn how to do this. I have many practices in the book that will help you with this. You'll be seeing the trigger as a pointer to your own work. And in this way, a trigger arouses curiosity about ourselves rather than reaction to others. So we find out where to focus our energy so we can liberate ourselves from being hijacked by other people's behavior. Or another way of saying it is, we become independent adults. Now, let me give a few examples. We experience a sudden loss. So of course you're going to be triggered into grief. That's a healthy reaction. We receive bad news, that triggers you into grief. Natural disaster. Someone's coming at you violently. That's the trigger into fear. We're with people who are expressing their feelings in a very animated way. And we're not used to being around people like this, so we get a little bit scared, even though it may not be appropriate. And there are various categories of triggers. For instance, some are based on feeling self-conscious. You imagine that people are judging you, looking down at you. You're on guard when references are made to your age or your status or your career. Some triggers are based on being discounted. People are sarcastic toward us, or adult children don't want to spend as much time with us as we would like them to. We're snubbed or slighted, we're stood up, we're stranded. People don't really believe us. You're triggered when someone tries to control you. You're triggered when someone takes advantage of you, cheats you, lies to you, deceives you, betrays you. Here's a good example. You're triggered when you're cut off in traffic. Now that's an example of a double kind of a trigger. I'll explain what I mean. Since being cut off in traffic could lead to an accident in which you could be hurt, the actual reaction is fear. But we have become so adept at denying our fear that we immediately switch it into rage. And so we become angry at the other driver, but actually we've just covered up the fear, and the anger is meant to, shall we say, cancel it. And I certainly was guilty of this. And when I found Buddha's path, I thought to myself, well, you've got to have another way of handling this, because you're, first of all, it's a phony reaction. Secondly, it's aggressive, it's retaliatory. When you swear at people or try to cut them off. And so I came up with a new plan. And this would be an example of how a trigger can change. What I do now is I take my foot off the accelerator, so I immediately slow down, let the other driver get way ahead of me, and then I say, may you arrive safely. May you find Buddha's path. And when I say little things like that, it calms me down. And what I've noticed, now that I do it so automatically, I no longer have a big reaction when I'm cut off. That's an example of how this works. Obviously, triggers are very common in relationships. For instance, somebody tries to get or is getting so close to us, we feel engulfed or smothered by such over-attentiveness or by being pawed that we're triggered into wanting to get away. Or someone breaks our trust, so we're triggered into that feeling of grief about the betrayal. Someone doesn't stand up for us, doesn't show up for us. Someone, you go to a party and your partner has his eye on someone else and pays no attention to you. Someone discounts the impact of what you're feeling, or says your feelings don't matter. You unexpectedly meet up with an ex-spouse, ex-partner, and you just feel that kind of clutching of fear. You don't know what you're gonna say. And this one, like, you notice that a person you were once so close to now acts indifferently toward you, and you realize he or she has completely disengaged from you. You no longer matter. So those would be some examples of relationship issues. Someone coming at you in a way that transgresses your boundaries, that would be another example. Anyway, I don't have to keep going into examples. I think you get the basic concept. But I would like to check in with you and see if anybody has any questions. And then I will come back to two other reasons besides. So the first reason that something is so strongly triggering is that it hooks up with an event from the past that was either traumatic or unresolved. And then I have two more reasons that we might be triggered. But first, does anybody have any questions or ideas that you wanted to share?
My name's Wendy.
Hi,
and
Wendy.
Just listening to some of your examples. Hi. Listening to examples, I seem to identify with a number of them. Do you think there's just a single source that I should be looking for as sort of the trailhead, or is it reflective of multiple experiences and triggers?
Yeah, it could be a variety of things. The main triggers that you want to work with as trailheads are the ones that keep happening over and over again. The ones that you have the least control over, and the ones that aren't universal. For instance, anyone is going to react with fear or anger when cut off in traffic. So we don't work with that one. We want the ones that are peculiar to us.
Okay. So that gives me a direction to look for, to the ones that are really the significant triggers.
Yeah, and the ones that you can tell are significant are the ones that bring about an excessive reaction. It happens over and over again. And sometimes it's so strong that you even feel destabilized. In other words, you think the world is going to come to an end. Everything is falling apart. I'm not going to be able to manage this. When the sense of having no resources to take care of the feelings that have come up, in other words, you can't manage the feelings that have been triggered, those are the ones that show you there's something in me that I have to look at. Especially when it's an example that brings up powerlessness, because that is what you felt in childhood. So powerlessness
definitely.
Yeah, is one of the signals that this must connect to childhood. One of my books, title says it all: The Past in the Present. There's nobody who's totally in the present except in moments, like moments of mindfulness. You're sitting and meditating, and you're looking at that mandala, and you just feel like you're in the present for a matter of seconds until the next thought comes in. But most of the time, we're being impacted by something from the past, also called transference. Anyway, thanks for your question. Did I answer, or did you have more?
Yes, that answers it. That was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Nobody is above triggers, no matter how healthy you are. you're going to be triggered. It's just part of being human. You wouldn't want not to be triggered. I mean, you would lose your lively energy. But once you get it, that the big triggers, of which most of us have less than 10, those are the ones that can light the way into something about ourselves that we are ready to look at. Because it is a matter of timing also. I'm thinking of this poem by Emily Dickinson. It's very short. Let's see, the word swoon means faint, F-A-I-N-T. And here she's noticing that some of the things that happened in childhood were so traumatic, were so big, that it's not safe to look at them. So what we have to do is just not go there. And I do want to throw that in because it wouldn't really be right to say, psychologically, to say that you should go back and look at all your traumas. Some of them are still too overwhelming or were so big that to look at them would make us fragments fall apart, as you will hear in the poem. So I'll recite the poem and then I'll explain it a little bit for those who aren't used to poetry. There is a pain so utter, it swallows substance up, then covers the abyss with trance, so memory can step around across upon it, as one within a swoon goes safely where an open eye would drop her bone by bone. So if she let herself look directly at what actually happened to her, she would fragment. So she can't do that. She has to step around the memory, let the sleeping dog lie, experience the triggers, and work with them through mindfulness, rather than having to explore things that we're not ready to look at yet, or might never be ready to look at. And we shouldn't be ashamed of this. We should just think to ourselves, the human body mind has sometimes gone through things that were too overwhelming ever to be resolved. So we leave them where they are, and we endure our triggers. I have another question. Is it Tara Renee?
Yes, yes. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much. So I just want to share that my triggers, they're very subtle. It could be just a memory, just a very, very like insignificant memory.
Mm-hmm.
And my things that trigger me could be just like going for a walk. I don't know, maybe the subtlest image, and it just pulls me back to, well, 2 years ago, I made a really poor decision, made a poor choice in my life, and it resulted in harming somebody. And it just takes me back to the very moment that they're so strong, but it could be just the subtlest thing that I can't even pinpoint. It could be just a like memory, it could be a smell, it could be just a word that I hear. Like so subtle that it just takes me by surprise. But like it takes me way back to the very moment of things that I experienced, or like with such intensity but I can't really pinpoint what is it that triggers me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you're also bringing up the topic of regret.
A lot of it, a
Yeah.
lot of it.
And that one is a very common trigger experience. So a memory comes up and you feel this regret that you acted a certain way. And regret, that the GRET is the old word for grief, and the RE is repeat, means repeat. So regret is to revisit the grief, but never fully experience it. So that's what a regret is. You're being confronted with a grief, but you fall into regret instead of stepping directly into the full grief because it might be too painful. What I would look into is, have I forgiven myself? Is there a way to come to forgiveness of myself? And I talk about this in the book. The pathway is making amends to anyone you have hurt and therefore feel regret about how you hurt someone. Or if it's a mistake that you made in the past, you would either make amends or you would say, okay, what have I learned from this? And it was an expensive way of learning it, but at least now I'm on the lookout and I won't have to make the same mistake again. And to forgive oneself or to forgive anyone is not to excuse yourself, but to let go of having to beat yourself or beat someone else for what happened. Also, sometimes I have a little section here in the book. I'll just read you this short section regarding regret and how it too could harken back to childhood. We might have been shamed, punished, or rejected for doing what our parents dubbed wrong or bad. If we knew that what we did was not wrong, no trigger results. But if we interiorly agreed with them, we may now still be triggered into shame. And instead of being shamed by them, we shame ourselves. Why did I do what I did, we ask. How could I have made such a mistake? How could I have been so dumb? Those are the exact words we might have heard in childhood and that we're now saying to ourselves. And now I'm quoting from the book, how much of our regret is unresolved grief from our home in the shanty town of long ago? And I give this beautiful quote by the famous Jesuit Teilhard de Chardin. I bless the vicissitudes, the good fortune, the misadventures of my life. I bless my character, my virtues, and my faults. I bless my blemishes. I love my own self in the form in which it was given to me and in the form in which destiny molded it. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, other questions about this?
Yeah.
Or do you have any other question?
No, thank you.
Tara?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
David, I was wondering if you could talk a bit about the conscious versus unconscious nature of triggers. In my case, sometimes the reaction can happen so quickly and I'm not really linking up on exactly what the trigger was.
Oh, you mean you're having a reaction, but you can't pinpoint what led to it.
When it's happening at the moment, that happens so like quickly, like lightning speed, the reaction.
Mm-hmm. That is a good example, and that happens to all of us, I think. You wonder, why am I having such a big reaction? What actually happened here? And that's where you would ask yourself the 3 questions. I've looked at the first question, which is, does this have something to do with my childhood? Does this remind me of something that happened in my early enterprise with my parents, and how they treated me and how I was with them, and how they did or did not come through to fulfill my legitimate needs? Or is there some way that they physically, emotionally, or sexually harm me? Is there something unresolved? I've talked about that. So now we go to the second 2 possible origins. And this is all an answer to your question. So
Thank
the
you.
second one is, does this have something to do with my big fat ego, which has been insulted, and I'm indignant that he or she dared to treat me as if I were an ordinary person rather than the big shot that I really am? Or shall we say, I'm entitled to special treatment and they're not giving it to me here. Or somebody competed with me and won, and I have to be the winner or else I'm nobody. We all know what it's like to have a big ego. And it's not fun, and it's not fun to be with. And it cancels intimacy, because when you have to be right all the time, then you can't allow real communication to happen. And you will engage in the ego's favorite sport, revenge. And if anything can kill intimacy fast, it's that. And I first got onto this doing couples therapy. I was with a couple, I'll never forget it. I was with a couple once, and the woman said something that the man did, and he had already said something that she had done. And then when in the story, she had done something that he didn't like, and then he did something that triggered her. He knew her triggers, and he did something that he knew would really anger her. I turned to him and I said, "Were you trying to retaliate?" And that was the first time I noticed that it's common in some relationships to get back at each other. And I said to myself, well, as long as you're doing that, how could love ever be possible? Since the only real love is unconditional. Beyond retaliation, it goes directly to reconciliation. Anyway, so 1, does the trigger remind me of something from the past? 2, is the trigger about my ego being somehow infringed upon? And 3rd and last, and this one's a hard one, is this person doing something that I would do, but he's getting away with it? What Jung called the shadow side. The part of us that we don't see, the part that's hidden, that would act over and over again in negative ways, but kind of hides out and only does it in subterfuge, surreptitiously, just something slips out that is malicious or harmful to others. And sometimes we even surprise ourselves. Gee, why did I do that? That wasn't very nice. So anyway, the three possibilities. The trigger could be set off by the past. The trigger could be set off by my ego being insulted, or the trigger could be set off because I'm looking at myself in someone else, but I only see the negative side in the other. I've never confronted it in myself. I've never recognized that I would not be so disturbed by what other people do if it weren't also somehow true of myself. It takes a lot of humility to admit that. But so let me give you a simple example, or let me tell you the method that I use and give an example. When I am upset and it keeps eating away at me, it keeps gnawing at me, then I know I was triggered, but I don't remember exactly how. And I have to look back at the recent events and ask myself, which one touched off the feeling that I'm having? And I'll give an example. I went to the bank once, the bank that I've been going to for a number of years, and I was cashing a check. And the teller said, the teller asked for identification, of course. So I gave the teller my license, my driver's license, has a picture on it. Then he said, do you have another form of identification? So I gave him the Visa card, has my name on it. The Visa's from that bank, so it's easy to check. But then he said, do you have a third form of identification? Now I was triggered, upset. I felt like, what? It bothered me. I didn't have a third form. So he had to go get the manager and, be able to cash the check. I never heard of such a thing where you need three forms of identification. Anyway, it bothered me, kept bothering me. So I used my little method that I'm sharing with you. I asked myself three questions. Is this like something from childhood? I asked then, what's the this? The this is, he doesn't trust me. I have to prove myself. Yes, that is like childhood. Then I asked, I didn't stop there, because sometimes it's two or three, not just one trailhead. So then I asked, okay, did my big fat ego get insulted? Absolutely. How dare he ask for three forms of identification when I've been coming here all these years? Doesn't he know I'm important? And third, is this anything like my own shadow? Am I the kind of a person who does not trust others? And I could think of examples in which I am like that. So that explained the bigness and the length of time that I felt upset by what happened. And I was able to trace it to his asking for the third form of identification. Now, it's not always that easy to recognize which event was the triggering one, but that's the only example I can think of. Anyway, does that help, Michael?
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very, very helpful. I appreciate the comprehensiveness of the answer. Thank you.
Okay, somebody else have a question? Barry?
Yes. Yeah, thank you, David. I really took in what you were saying about those three tests there, and I will try and put that into practice starting tomorrow, or maybe even today.
No time like the present.
There you go.
By the way, before you go on, an easy way to do it is, and you'll see this in the book, that you want to see the trailhead, SEE, shadow, ego, early life. That's the easiest way to remember. So I started with early life, but SEE, I want to see what happens. Is this my shadow? Is he doing what I would do, but he's getting away with it? Is this my ego? He dared to defy my greatness, or compete with me, or not acknowledge me. Or is this like early life? Did this happen to me before, when I was powerless to do anything about it?
Great.
Okay, but anyway, back to your question.
Yeah, thank you. That's a mnemonic that could certainly be a reminder. I've noticed that you've talked about the stimulus side of things and exploring that, and the response side of things in terms of emotional response, like for example, grief, sadness, or in your road rage situation, anger, rage. But I'm curious about whether you think it's useful or worth exploring the response in terms of flight, fight, freeze type responses, and what that might shed or enlighten us by looking at that, or how that fits in, I guess, in terms of your discussion here about stimulus and response, because there's the emotional response, and then there's the behavioral response that we have, which causes us to disengage or engage in inappropriate ways, maybe with the person that we're having this interaction with.
Well, that's a very good question, and I do need to go into that. So I'm glad you brought it up now. So first is the stimulus. Something did not cause, but touched off. Something touched off some type of reaction. This reaction is internal, like fear, anger, sadness, shame. And then the third part, for some people, is to do something based on the feeling that came up. Example, in the bank, I did nothing. I did not start shouting or complaining, what kind of a bank is this? I just kind of went along with it, and I just felt something internally. But in road rage, I feel something internally, and then I do something like try to butt up against his back bumper with my front bumper, something crazy like that. Now what I've done is I've gone to the fight, to the aggression response, or sometimes when we're triggered, we go into hang back, run away, escape, and sometimes that's the healthiest response, because to stay and fight would not really work if we don't have the resources to carry on a fight. We might be with somebody who is truly violent and would hurt us, and we don't have it in us to take care of ourselves fully. Or sometimes we freeze. We just are like a deer in the headlights, and we can't move at all. So all three show us that our adrenaline has been activated, and that flight, fight, freeze reaction just comes out automatically. Fear would be an example of something that definitely leads to those three. So,
I guess
yeah, go ahead.
one thought I had was, is it useful for us to look at our own patterns of behavioral response?
Yes.
And be curious about, perhaps we more often than not retreat into flight, or more often than not are triggered into fight, or or one of the others. Maybe there's a tendency, a trend, and maybe that's
Yes.
I imagine everyone has experienced all three of those responses at various times, but perhaps one of them predominates
Yes.
more often than others, right?
I have a separate chapter on each of the three main feelings: anger, sadness, and fear. And when I have spoken to various audiences over the years, I have asked, raise your hand, which of these three feelings is the one that you feel the most? Fear, anger, or sadness? And every single time, overwhelmingly, the greatest number of hands go up when it comes to fear. So that seems to be the main one. And along these lines, just to let you know, I did a whole, it's actually in this book. So in the appendix of the book, I have my little collection that I've gathered over the years, and they really are helpful. It's called Affirmations to Free Ourselves from the Grip of Fear. See, we don't free ourselves from fear itself. That will never happen. But you don't have to act on fear. That's where your power is. You have no power over fear. And we need fear because you can't go for a hike and you have so given up your fear that you don't shy away from a rattlesnake. We need the fear as a healthy signal. But you can free yourself from being possessed by it and acting on it. These affirmations in here will help you. And I read these out loud. They're free to listen to on YouTube or on my website, davericho.com. Just go to free articles. And the very first one is my little 10-minute reading of all the affirmations. You can just listen to them when you're doing something in the house. And you listen every day, and gradually you start to release yourself from some of the fears. I also have been using, over the years since I read the book Dune by Frank Herbert. This is a science fiction novel. And in this novel, the people, when they experience fear, have a little kind of affirmation, and I will recite it to you now, and then I'll make a comment on it. And I myself use this. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past me, I will turn to see fear's path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Or another way of saying it is, I lived through every fear, and I will live through this one. But what I like about the affirmation is, I will let it pass through me. Let it go through you like lightning through a lightning rod, and it goes to ground. Give it back to Mother Earth. She will absorb the fear with no problem and no deleterious effect. She will take your fears and transform them into whatever keeps this planet turning. So you make that connection between your feelings and Earth. It really is helpful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
you.
When you quoted that from Dune, that quote from Dune, I had to chuckle because my kids know that I've used that phrase, fear is the mind killer, a number of times with them and in conversation with them, but not the corollary there. And so that's the piece that I thank you for reminding me of that, because I want to pass that on to my kids as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Anyways, that's just an amazing little coincidence. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question from Karen. She asked, what about powerlessness that is really part of society or structure, for example, women?
Absolutely. And so it's understandable that they're like built-in triggers that go with our culture and our society. And I imagine even more so on the United States side than on your side, but it is everywhere. And all of us are going to be at the mercy and at the effect of biases, prejudices, sometimes expressed in ways that are even life-threatening and life-endangering, as we've been seeing recently in what's been happening here in America. And it's just so understandable that we're going to be triggered, and there's not really a cure for it. It just calls for caution and, of course, for organizing in healthy, nonviolent protest. It's as if, in this instance, the trigger became an encouragement to take a stand in society for all those who suffer as we do. So instead of just letting it be triggering that being a woman, being Black, being gay, being radical, being whatever, means that society will turn on you, instead of just being triggered into self-protection and legitimate anger. You're going to take your own ouch and align it to all the other people who are saying ouch with you. and find a way to organize together so that you can confront the forces in society that are trying to destroy the margins and only keep the people safe who remain centrist. Anyway, that would be a spiritual way of working with triggers. In Catholicism, there's an accent on contemplation, but those who are committed to contemplation do so with what's called an apostolic intent. So I do sit and meditate, I do contemplate, but it has the intent of bringing about a world of justice, peace, and love. It's not about how I can have a closer relationship to Christ. It's about how all of us can bring about the kingdom on earth that he came to usher in. What is this kingdom? A world in which there's justice, peace, and love. So that would be an example of how the spiritual dimension comes through. Not just in Catholicism, it could be in any tradition, or it could even be the style of someone who doesn't have any religion at all. But it's certainly the style of Buddhism. Any other questions before I go on?
Just in line with what you've been saying, is there any practice that you recommend, practice that you've seen work in action that we can do in advance in order to moderate once we are faced with some trigger? So what I mean by this is, let's say we are aware of our triggers, and some of them we are not still aware. Is there something that we can do in advance so that when that happens, we can moderate the situation and we don't react out of proportion?
Good. Well, what I recommend in the book is a combination of mindfulness and loving kindness practice. That's a specific Buddhist practice in which we show love and compassion first to ourselves, then to those who are close to us, then to those who are neutral to us, then to those we don't like or who don't like us, and finally to all beings. When I keep doing that practice, combined with mindfulness, which is being present to what's happening, but without the judgment, and without the need to define, and without the need to control, and without the need to push it toward a particular outcome, when I'm just present with an unconditional yes to reality as it is, when I practice that over and over again, I notice that I'm less triggered. And I'm speaking from experience. It really works. But let's use this one other example that I wanted to bring up, because I think this could help us even with your question. I'm going to use the example of somebody hurts your feelings. And now all of this is in the book. It's really liberating to get it that you have options. And I'm going to give 3 options. Somebody hurts your feelings. Option 1, hurt him back. That's your reptilian brain. That's cave people talking. Second option, he hurt my feelings. I won't hurt him back. That's your second option. First option, he hurt me, I hurt him. Second option, he hurt me, I don't hurt him. In other words, I'm going to do no harm. Now, the third one, this is the one that's counterintuitive. This is the one that takes grace, the gift dimension of life, that converts you away from the cave people and street style. Takes you beyond the golden rule. Golden rule, I won't hurt back because I don't want him to hurt me and I won't hurt him. That was the second option. But listen to the third option. I don't hurt back. And in addition, I do good to those who hurt or hate me. I mean, you can tell I'm quoting the Sermon on the Mount. Do good to those who hate you. Now, this do good could simply mean don't have ill will toward them, wish them the best, and let go. Or it could be, do something for them that helps them see that you are practicing love instead of the first option, retaliation, or the second option, non-repetition. Now, in the first one, the primitive reaction, you become aggressive and you try to right the wrong in the street rules style. In the second one, do no harm, you act in accord with ethical principles. In the third one, do good to those who have hurt you, you act in accord with the Sermon on the Mount or the Buddhist practice of loving kindness, quote, Sermon on the Mount, love your enemies. In the first one, you're heartless. In the second one, your heart opening. In the third, your heart expanding. In the first one, it's win-lose, hurt back, win-lose. In the second one, it's win-win by 2 separate individuals. In the third one, it's win-win by 2 connected individuals. And the easiest way to remember this is in the first option, hurt them back. You are like the guys in the Godfather movies. In the second style, don't hurt back. You are like Mr. Rogers or Atticus Finch. In the third option, you are Christ or Buddha in the world today. Those are the 3 options. Imagine practicing this third option. And it's going to take a conversion in favor of love over hate. So in the first one, it's they did it, so you do it to them. In the second one, it's don't do it to them. In the third one, it's Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high. And I'm so happy that I found these 3 options. They really are important in my life, and I'm so glad I could just describe them this way. It's just it just shows the beautiful option of full humanity. And I'm thinking of this beautiful quote from Shantideva, 8th century Buddhist teacher, in his wonderful book, The Way of the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is a person who doesn't want to accept the rewards of enlightenment until he brings with him all the other people on the planet, he or she. And this is the quote from the Way of the Bodhisattva. May those whose hell it is to hate or hurt be turned into lovers bringing flowers. Isn't that beautiful? May those whose hell it is to hate or hurt, they're already in hell. They don't need punishment. They're already in hell by hating and hurting. May those whose hell it is to hate and hurt, not may they wind up in eternal punishment, but that would be a primitive style of religion, to believe that there's a hell of punishment. But in the Buddhist approach, it's may those whose hell it is to hate or hurt be turned into lovers who are bringing flowers to their beloved. Anyway, that would be an example of a spiritual way of working with such a trigger as people have hurt me or hate me. Goes with the question that someone asked about prejudice. And I'd like to end with this beautiful quotation from Martin Luther King Jr. in the speech he gave in 1964 when he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. Sooner or later, all the people of the world will have to discover a way to live together in peace. If this is to be achieved, we must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. So thank you all for your attention, and I really appreciate your listening. And good luck in your finding the trailheads.